to the Determined People podcast. I'm glad you're here. We are committed to bringing encouragement, strength, and hope to a world that's in desperate need of it. And I'd like to ask you a favor before we get started with this week's guest. Would you hit that subscribe button? That way, every time we drop a YouTube, which will be every 2 weeks, you'll automatically be notified. And it's your choice if you want to watch the interview or not. But these stories focus on not just the outward success, which is what the world sees. We focus on the struggle, the story to get there. Today we're going to talk about an interesting struggle. You know, if you go back 50 years to 1972, in those days, women had to have a male co-signer to get a credit card or get a checking account in their name. Now that situation exists in Saudi Arabia today, but this is the United States of America. The late Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's one of my heroes, was a champion for women's rights. She was involved in, as an attorney, 34 cases which went to the Supreme Court. She tried 6 of them herself and won 5. That may be a record for all I know, but she was a champion for women. I have sons, but if I had daughters, I would always say, that's somebody you should pick as a role model. My guest today is an empowerment coach. Deanne Rose works with primarily women. She helps them manifest through generational maladies. She guides them as they heal from past trauma and discover who they really are as a person. Now, she's had her own trauma to work through, and today we're going to talk about that, and we're going to learn more about how her work transforms women, helps them heal, and frees them from limiting beliefs. Welcome, Deanne. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, John, for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it. Let's talk a little bit about your background. How did you go from being a housewife with 2 kids, 3 dogs, transport across country to Austin, Texas, and now you help women find themselves?
Yes. Well, it was one of those situations where the universe just catapulted me, and it was one of those go off the cliff and fly. So back in 2015, I was divorced after being married 22 years. And like you said, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had a small massage business on the side, but it was just kind of something just to keep me busy, get me out of the house. So I basically had to find myself again. And I was fortunate that my daughters were a little bit older, so they were in their teens, so that they didn't need a lot of mothering. So I could take the energy that I had from my marriage and my ex-husband and put it on myself. And it was through that I really started going into more of a self-discovery. And one of the things I found out about myself was that I really don't know me. I really don't have any viewpoints about things. I was definitely a people pleaser. Just want to go along and help, don't want to cause any conflict. Realized had really very fragile boundaries. And I wanted to heal that in me, to find out, discover who I am, so I could be a good role model for my daughters. And that is kind of what led me to become a women's empowerment coach, and a women's sex, love, and relationship coach as well, through my own healing of my own traumas, like you talked about.
Would you expand on some of your trauma?
Well, I've come to understand that trauma doesn't always have to be, a big, it doesn't have to be a big sexual trauma, or was I abused? No, I was none of that. Trauma can be, and I got this from my therapist, just moving across country like I did. She's like, that must have been traumatic. And I was like, no, that was a choice. But it was traumatic to the whole lifestyle. So my big trauma that catapulted me was my divorce, because I never thought that would happen to me. And what it did for me was shatter a lot of dreams and a lot of what I thought life should be. And I'm very grateful, because it gave me the experience to relate to other women going through this. And then as I was going through my own self-discovery, I just saw I am relating more and more to so many other women in my life that I wouldn't have gotten had I remained almost kind of like in this little bubble of marriage, homemaker. So that for me was the trauma came from basically having my world shattered and then having to rebuild that from the ground up.
And that would be pretty hard to do because you're dealing with, the emotions of your daughters and the breakup of their family as well, and in your family, and then trying to go, okay, who am I? Okay, and I'm a people pleaser. Do you have siblings?
No, I'm the only child.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Usually the people pleaser is the middle child.
Oh, that's true.
They try to mitigate the old one who's usually the jerk, and then the youngest who's like I was the youngest, obviously. The happy-go-lucky one, right?
But I think the only child though is I've always felt I had to be everything for my parents, like because if I screwed up, well, they don't got anybody else. So it was like I need to follow this path. I need to do this, even though I might not have felt it in my heart that was mine. It was like, oh, that's the way it should be. That makes them happy.
So what you're talking about, though, is very relatable in the group of women that you work with, and that is because, if you think back on what I started off the show with about the 70s when women couldn't get a checking account or a credit card, and there's other things too, but they, women that are in their 40s and 50s now grew up in that culture, right? And there's hand-me-down stuff. There's generational maladies that come with that. So, but you had to, I guess I would say, unlearn a lot of things like people-pleasing and find out who you are. Yeah. How did you do that?
Well, I did that by connecting to my sexuality. And you
can talk about anything on the show.
Of course. So I was led, I got to learn through a year after my divorce just to follow the breadcrumbs where they led me. And the more I did that, the more doors opened up, the more people I met. And I was led to this woman called Layla Martin, and she has a sex, love, and relationship coaching year-long program. And, I was searching for something that I can do with my life. Massage, I loved doing it, but I knew I couldn't keep doing it. It was a little hard on my body. So I'm like, how can I empower women? Because I was feeling more empowered myself. I'm like, I want to give back to women somehow. So I got into this year-long training program kind of blindly, didn't know what it was going to be about. And gosh, the first half was life transforming. It was 6 months of a deep dive into myself with different practices and there was about 300 women in this program, all online, but then we had some retreats here and there in person. But I got exposed to so many different lifestyles, and mind was just blown, eyes were open, and I understood. I'm like, wow, I've been really shut down sexually from my body, and I was able to these practices, which now that I work with my women clients with, because what I ask my women clients to do is what I have done myself. I was able to really connect back to my body and really kind of be in my body for the first time and love my body. It's for women, I think one of the things we deal with a lot is, body shame, comparison, thinking we should, look a certain way, we need to wear these certain clothes. And what I found is that the more connected you get to your body, the more you decipher from, your belief systems, what has been put upon you by society and what is yours. And when you can clear away the debris from society and get really clear on who you are, then you know how to show up in the world. And maybe you're the kind of woman who wants to wear the high heels and all the makeup because that makes you feel good. You're not doing it for the men around. You're doing it for yourself. And that's what I learned was to do things for myself because that made me happy. And when I do that, I show up, I show up better in the world. I'm happier. I'm more magnetic. And more confident in myself because I know who I am and I don't have those other things in my head thinking this is what I should be.
You'd mentioned a therapist. Had you done much self-work before this sex, love, and relationship program?
Not to the deeper parts. No, I wasn't aware about that, and yeah, I mean, it was really through this coaching program that I really start to embody actually the work. Maybe people have heard about like shadow work or inner child work. I've heard of those and maybe dabbled in, but I didn't really truly understand what that meant until I went through this program and really connected to those teachings and trainings.
You talk about on your website shame, guilt.
Yeah.
How do those contribute to, say, limiting beliefs, which you also discuss? And I have a great interest in limiting beliefs. I've spoken on limiting beliefs and how to get rid of them before, so
yes.
I definitely in tune with that. But how are they all related, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, when we have shame about something, if a woman has shame about her body, I think that limits her. It limits her connection possibly to her partner because she maybe doesn't want to show her partner her body, and so she's limiting herself in her mind. Like, he thinks he's gonna think I'm fat or saggy here, so she's limiting herself from having this really truly authentic connection with another human being because in her head, she has this belief that she should be perfect. She should look like, a model for her partner to love her. Like things, I think limiting beliefs with, shame and guilt, that's the word. They put limits. Like shame and guilt put limits on how we show up in the world and how much pleasure and vitality we can grab from life. And guilt, gosh, I mean, as a mother, it's like once you become a mother, it's almost like here's your baby and here's a bunch of guilt. And I've worked through, as a mother, I should stay home, or I shouldn't leave my baby with a babysitter. I'm a bad mom if I go back to work, or, things that these new moms are dealing with. And I've heard a lot of women say, well, they made me feel guilty. And those are the limiting beliefs that are making you feel guilty, because
Those come from within.
Well, and that's what you have to. Yeah, that's why I was talking about. You need to, like, what is your truth? Like, if you can accept your own truth, you'll understand that nothing outside yourself is making you do anything. It's like if you believe, if like you truly believe in your inner core that staying home is the best thing and going to work isn't, then make that choice. If you go to work, then your inner self is saying that's not true for you. So
it just piles on, more guilt, and eventually you feel shameful about it.
Yes.
You feel like you're not good enough.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but and if you, a lot of times it's economic reasons. Have to go back to work and be a two-parent home. Both parents work outside the home. There's no shame in that.
Exactly.
In fact, it's honorable to go provide for your family. But I get that from the inside. But if that's what you really want to do, is stay home. Find a way.
Find a way.
I mean, the internet has absolutely opened the world up to us, where we never even have to leave home
to
work from there.
Exactly. It's you.
How bad
you need
you want
to.
it.
Yeah. Exactly. How bad? How true do you want to be with yourself? You can always find a way.
How do you, when you get a new client, and how do you start out the process of working with them? What would a new person, if they said, "Hey, I love Deanne. I want to connect with her. I think she's the right person. I'm ready." How do you start?
Well, that's the key word, is ready, because this is deep work, and I work with women who are ready, and not all women are ready, and that's fine.
How can you tell? How can you tell?
How can you tell? How can I tell? I can tell. Well, honestly, I can tell is when they just want to sign up right now. Like, I am ready to do this. If there's any hesitation, then there's something that is a limiting belief, perhaps, that is there. So I'll, even in our connection call, our womb to womb connection call, might work through some limiting beliefs right there and then to see, maybe we can release that and you can connect what more is to your truth. So, like you can feel in your heart, like the women I work with feel in their heart and their womb space that this is the right time for them to do this work. Because when they come in, the first thing that I work with women on is womb awakening and yoni de-armoring, which is a very personal work. And a woman is at this point going to be, exploring her body, getting connected to her body, and things will start to come up. And my programs are designed to support and nurture women through this, because it is deep work. It could be intense, but that's how you get the transformation that these women are looking for, because they're ready.
So how long do you typically work with a client? Is there a time frame that they sign up for, or is it just until you get to where I don't think I can take you any farther, you have healed this? I mean,
yes. So when I start off with women, I mean, there's different ways to work with them. I have shorter programs, like 2 or 3 sessions, which is kind of like, okay, maybe there's like, you're not 100% all in yet. Let's dabble a little bit here and see if this is the right work for you. Other times, a woman is completely like, this is what I want, and goes into my 3-month The Unbridled Woman program. And that is...
I love that word, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah.
As a man, it has all these connotations in my head, and they're all good, by the way.
Yeah, it's just as a free woman, just fully expressed in herself. And so it's 12 weeks, and we talk about a different topic, a different module every week, with different home plays and workbooks and journals and lots of one-on-one. These are all one-on-one, so not in group. You have me, because like I said, this is a deep dive, and I want to be able to support,
deeply
be there.
Personal, yeah.
Exactly.
And unique to each person.
And so it's after those 3 months, I definitely. There is some integration time, of course, and then it's what the woman needs after. I mean, I've got a lot of training in tantra, in couples tantra. I mean, there's a different areas that a woman can go to get a little bit more deeper in after she goes through the 3 months. So it's all what's coming up. But that's the main focus of the coaching.
And I don't know if there's a percentage that you could define or not, but do you see an overwhelming number of married women coming, or single women, or divorced? I mean, is there any theme there, the common thread there?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I see a lot about like 28 to 35 area around there. Women who haven't had children yet but want to, who are kind of coming into that, all right, I know there might be a little bit more to life, but I'm not quite sure exactly what it is. I'm just, I'm exploring. So I tend to get women between, those ages right there. I've worked with a couple women, my age, and this is definitely very empowering work, especially after a divorce, because just like me, that's how I really kind of found my footing again to, my next part of the chapter.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if you have a woman comes in that's married, I'm just going to ask you one, and tell me how it benefits her and her husband's relationship if she really does take to the empowerment tools that you work through with her. I mean, I'm guessing her partner, her husband, probably sees some great change in her.
Yeah, actually, I think husbands are the best referral. They're like, hey, honey, I heard this woman on a podcast. Maybe you should listen.
Let me tell you what did for my wife. Okay?
Yeah. No, because I don't know. I don't think there's anything sexier than a woman who knows what she wants.
Yeah, I agree.
And and even especially in the bedroom, I mean, that could really, really turn, especially a married couple who's kind of, or any, partnership that's been together for a long time, there get slumps. And, sometimes women think, oh, the man, he should take charge. He should know what I like or what to do. But, that's unfair, and that puts a lot of pressure on men. And
I heard
sometimes
a comedian one time just tell us what to do. We'll do it, right?
Right. And and I was talking actually to this gentleman recently, and he was like, I just want to please my partner, and and he's like, I'm getting into a new relationship, and how do we do this? I'm like, well, it's communication, and in the bedroom, but you don't talk about the sex during the sex time. Like, that's not the time to say, oh, I don't like when you do that. Like, it should be talked about beforehand. Or if it is in the moment, of course, be very, you have to, certain wording, right? You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Be gentle, but
yes.
specific, sure.
But to answer your question, I mean, yes, this work is, it empowers women to ask for what they want, to know what they want, first of all, and be able to ask for what they want. And if they can't get it from their partner, they know they can get it from themselves. Just like we were talking about, if you want to stay home with your child, you're going to figure out a way. So if a woman, she's like, I need this from you, from her husband, and she can't get that. All right, how can I get this from myself? Maybe I need to reach out to my women's group, or there's always different avenues. But if you don't rely so much on everybody, your husband or your partner, to give you everything,
That's very good, yeah. It empowers the woman to take the responsibility and accountability and communicate that to her husband, partner, whatever, right?
Right. And the other way around, gives him permission as well to be like, hey, let's talk about
Do you
stuff.
talk about that? Say, okay, if your husband says, if he some men can be deeply insecure, and if he's going to shut down. If you say, well, I don't really like that, then do you talk about how to communicate that with between partners? How to be sensitive to the man's, emotional state, whatever that is.
Yes, I don't remember what the technical term is, but it's basically, use the sugar before the salt, almost, right?
Sure.
So, always
or the carrot before the stick, right?
Right, yeah, like always give a compliment, and celebrate what is good,
Sure.
and then offer, and this could be better this way.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't say, I don't like it when you do that, I hate, or, it's like use these intense words, or that was awful, or, I mean, gosh, if you just talk to your partner the way you would, talk to your, I don't know, your child. I mean, use loving words. I was going to say how you talk to yourself, but not a lot of people talk nicely to themselves.
Right.
So,
Right.
You have to remember, your partner is an individual person with feelings and stuff, and how would you want them to talk to you about this stuff? That's you have to kind of think about.
Good point. Because what you bring up is so true. We're always having conversations in our head. We're talking all the time to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
There's two voices. They're competing for it. One's good, one's encouraging you, one's prompting you, pushing you. The other one's saying, "Who do you think you are? You're not good enough."
Right.
Why
Yeah.
do you think your body's okay? Right? I mean, he's going to think you're fat or saggy or whatever you said before. We've got to learn which voice to listen to and filter out the other one as best as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing I bring up with my clients is, that, there is going to be that voice, right? And it's there for a reason. It probably protected you somehow, way back when. Yeah. But again, it's like, is that really your truth now? And if not, then what else is true? So it's, it's getting like to, which wolf are you going to feed, So
The hungry one, right?
Yeah.
And what you're talking about this, when you said that probably served you well at a point in your life, I call those coping mechanisms. Because at that period in your life, and we've all had them, that coping mechanism helped me. But our mind is such a unbelievably wonderful machine, better than any supercomputer that will ever be built. It will bring those things back to the surface when you're ready to work through them and heal from them and find a new way to handle whatever that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So can you give us can you talk about, without naming names obviously, but just like a success story, someone that came to you and maybe they were just a complete mess and marriage was falling apart. I don't know. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but somebody that you can think of that became a client that you worked with, that they went through the entire arc of going from here I am, maybe my words, a little scared rabbit over here, not really sure who I am and where I fit in and how I feel about all these things, and then you take her through months, however long it is, of working together, and what the end result looked like when you and she stopped working together.
Sure. Well, one particular comes in mind. So I started working with her soon after she had a miscarriage. So we had to work through that trauma, and which also was kind of feeling disconnected with her partner there, disconnected from her body, not trusting her body. She had been with her partner for a while, so the intimacy was waning, especially now, after this episode. So, and she was unemployed. She wanted to start her own business, but didn't know how, and was just really didn't have much focus. And yeah, I'm just smiling because the end result was just really quite beautiful. Through our work together, she ended up getting a part-time job that she loves in a place that nurtures her and supports her. And she's actually started her own business online. And I was actually just talking to her, and I asked her how she was. She's like, well, my husband's is going to be away for this month. And she's like, I'm taking some time off from work, and I'm just going to be with me. I'm going to do my yoga. I'm going to concentrate on, her new business, and like just doing things that make her light up and give her pleasure. Which, I was high-fiving her because, she came from like this timid person who didn't have a direction in her life, to getting more close with her partner. Their intimacy got a lot stronger. They started communicating. She was one of those, like, I don't really like it when he does this, so I just kind of lay there. And I'm like, well, you just have to talk about that stuff. And so now they have a better relationship, in that way, better communication. And she's also she's got that self-love. Like, I'm taking this time for me. Now I have this, recess from my partner, and I'm going to focus on what makes me happy. So,
and that what the word came to mind when you were talking about, well, I'm just going to lay there and like take it for the team, I guess, but probably not the best way to say that. But that can also build resentment, which is not going to increase intimacy with somebody.
Oh no,
having a resentful stance towards somebody is going to build every time that you just lay there and take it, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And then, that also teaches your body to not trust you, because you're not advocating for your body. Like, if you don't want to, like that, and that's where a lot of trauma happens for women. And when they start doing this yoni de-armoring work, a lot of that starts coming up of, all the times they were with a partner that they didn't want to be. They just, all right, just to save the relationship, or okay, that's what he wants. Like, you're just honoring this temple, and you're also showing your partner that you don't honor yourself. So, and I think that's where there's in relationships where there's not a lot of intimacy or closeness. And I just recently heard this, is like, if a woman, she doesn't own her own body and own what's here, how can she share this body with somebody else fully? There's always going to be some missing pieces.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And you're doing great work, because there's a huge need. Back in October, I was doing some research for a podcast episode, and I read about self-acceptance. And without going into all the data, 85% of adults in the U.S. don't like themselves. They don't accept themselves.
That's sad.
85%. I mean, I get there's some days I think I look better than others. I'm not Brad Pitt, but there's some days I do look better than others, right? But I don't. I have a healthy self-acceptance. Healthy is the operative word here, because I'm not full of myself. But I accept myself, and I am how the Creator made me, and I'm okay with that. But I thought, how sad for people. I mean, no wonder plastic surgeons are on every street corner nowadays, right?
Right. Yeah, I know. It's disheartening, and I mean, if you can't, accept yourself, how do you accept somebody else?
You accept them the same way you accept yourself.
Right,
You're looking for
with
flaws.
judgment.
Judgment.
Yeah,
You're
so
looking for
there's
flaws. You're comparing. Okay,
Yeah.
well, they're 5'2" and maybe a little chunky. I'm not. I mean, comparison will just destroy you. I mean, because you'll always
Absolutely.
be comparing, and the
Yes.
judgment. And I always say to people, what we see in others exists in us, the good and the bad. So if you're being judgmental towards somebody, maybe you ought to look at yourself, right?
Right.
And work on that in yourself. And if you see somebody that you go, man, I really admire the way that Deanne does this, you go, okay, I've got that in me too, because you recognize it. It's like a mirror, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So let me ask you, the work you do is on the emotional side of the brain. I get that the training comes on the analytical side, but the emotional work is where you really are with people, the emotional side of their brain. How do you take care of yourself to keep from getting yourself drugged down or taking on the stuff? I don't want to call it baggage. I hate that word. It's tossed about so much. I don't think of anything as baggage, but just the shit that people come in with, and some of it's a lot. How do you keep from taking that on yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think being a massage therapist for like 20 years or plus, I've learned how to shield myself, I guess, clean my energetic body off, because that's really, that's where things start on the energetic body, and then they come through to your physical body. So I definitely understand how to do that, and I've also, I think through just life experience and my own wisdom now, I am a very empathic person, and I used to be very just taking everything, feeling it, and
It can be exhausting.
yes, and getting sick and all that, and so I think it was just through that experience, I'm like, there has to be another way, and the way is compassion, I feel compassion for, what these women are going through, but I don't put myself in their place anymore. I don't feel, I used to feel like, oh, I could just take that for you and hold, so you don't have it anymore. But, that actually is a disservice to that person because they need to go through what they need to go through. So I can have compassion for what they're doing and just hold a space for them. And so I don't take that on, I just, my heart is open for them, but I'm also have my boundaries now. It's like, you have yours right there. And I have mine here. I'm not spewing stuff on you, and I'm not going to take any of your stuff. So, and I really try to keep up on, I do my meditation every day. I have certain rituals I do in the morning.
Meditation, not medication.
Yes, no medication, meditation, yes. And yeah, so that definitely helps, of course. And just make sure I keep my own self-care up.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
What you said, I couldn't help but think of my sons. They're 28 and 26 now, and they'll call sometimes and go, well, I'm facing this, and this. What do you think I ought to do? Well, I could tell you, but you figure it out. Figure it out.
Yeah.
And they will always figure it out and call me back and say, here's what I'm doing. Because again, if I take that and say to you, here's what you do, because I can see it immediately, because I've got years on them of wisdom, experience, failures, doing things the wrong way, doing things the right way, but they don't learn anything.
Yes,
If you give them
exactly.
the answer. Yeah, same thing with you. I can't take that on.
Right, yeah. And I think it's also important with, conversations with anybody is, especially when someone's telling you something, is to ask, first of all, do you want guidance?
Yeah.
Or do you just need to be heard? Because, I learned through my teenage daughters that spewing guidance doesn't always turn out too well.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just want to just yell. And okay, like you said, okay, you got that out, and now you go figure out what's best for you. And I'm here if you need any guidance.
Yeah.
That's what I say now to my daughters who are older. I'm always here, if you need guidance or someone to talk to, but you need to tell me what you need.
Yeah.
Exactly. and then I'll be that for you,
Don't you wish they had a handbook on raising kids? Yes. Here, you got this, 7-pound daughter. Here, this is her manual for life, right? Here, you got an 8-pound boy. Here's the manual for him.
It's actually really funny that you bring that up because I was just actually talking to this woman on my Facebook Live, and I was interviewing her, and she does astrology, and but she actually works with people, new moms and new dads with their babies by doing the birth chart for the baby, because through that you get the constitution, how this child is going to be showing up in the world, and that is basically the little handbook blueprint. And she was saying that, I guess, and this is secondhand, so maybe it's not true, but this is what I was told. Like, parents in India, before they come home, they actually get the whole astrology, chart and a birth chart of their child before they leave. So they know how to at least try a starting point, a little outline of how to parent this child, because I don't know if your experience is like, I had 2 daughters, 2 years apart, totally different, but I thought, I'll just parent the second one the way I did the first one. No.
Same experience, 2 sons, 2 years apart, fed them the same, treated them the same, took them to the same school, dressed them pretty much the same. Difference, but yet they're also a lot alike, but they're just, we're all hardwired differently.
So everybody is different, right? So if we can keep that in mind.
In India is where they did that. Interesting. I heard a talk by Jay Shetty recently, and he was talking to a bunch of, young crowd, I guess a college campus. He goes, in my culture, you're either a doctor, lawyer, or failure. So I wonder what the astrology chart said for him, because he went neither one of those routes, became a monk for a while.
I remember
now
the
he's pretty
story,
world famous, right?
Right,
But,
yes.
let's talk about one other subject, and then we'll wrap it up. You mentioned yoni. Am I saying that correctly? Tell us about what that is.
Oh, the yoni? Well, it's a Sanskrit word for vulva, for female genitals.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what that is.
But you're talking about some kind of...
Oh, the yoni de-armoring.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That was it. De-armoring?
Yeah, yoni de-armoring, yoni mapping, they kind of go hand in hand.
Okay.
So whatever you Google. So basically it is a massage for the vagina. And so if that's like the physical part of it. So if you imagine when you go to massage, like a body massage for your tight muscles, and there's some muscles that are tight, some hurt, some therapists could be pressing really deep. You're like, I don't feel anything. Well, that's the same what happens in the muscles of the vagina. So I teach women to do this work on themselves using a pelvic floor tool. Because pelvic floor work for women is extremely important no matter how old you are, to keep those muscles supple and strong.
Yeah, it's like anything else. Work out.
Yeah.
Exercise.
You don't want tight. You want strong and healthy. So, and this is what this technique does for the vagina. It keeps it strong and healthy. It brings back sensation, sensitivity to areas that are numb, relieves the pain and some painful parts, and then also energetically, emotionally, lots of things get discharged from there, because it is a place women hold a lot of things in their pelvic. A lot of old wounds, traumas usually go in the breasts of women or down in their pelvic region.
Interesting. So I'm going to walk out on the proverbial thin ice, and I'm in an area I know nothing about. Well, maybe a little, but not much. So there is a mind-body connection between what's going on in the mind, in the emotion, and the rest of your body.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so you do that to help clear that up as well, correct?
Yes. I mean, a lot of the work I do really kind of focuses on like our reptilian brain, like the lymphatic. No, not the lymphatic. The limbic
system.
Yes.
Right.
The fight and flight.
Yes.
Things like that. So survival, which a lot of that comes from the sacral root area, the root chakras and the sacral chakras.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Awesome. What else would you like our audience to know about you, Deanne?
Well, just know that this is my passion. This is my dharma here in this life, is is to be a nurturer and a guide for women. I mean, there's 3 stages of a woman's life: a maiden, mother, and crone. And we all have these different stages in us, but like I'm in my crone years. So I'm in the years where I don't care what people think. I'm myself, and I'm here to be, it's like the wise woman of the tribe. I have the information, I have the experience. I'm here to pull women up, and that's why I also got certified as a birth doula, because I wanted to be present and support women in bringing the new life into this world. It's like this is my path. This is to make the world a better place.
Awesome. That's great. Now, I will tell you this. I know a little bit about women. One thing I also know is I will never refer to one as a crone.
Oh, well, yeah, but if it's the right woman, she will be flattered, because it's a very sacred time.
She'll have to inform me that that's what she is. She'll have to volunteer that with her.
That's true.
Thank you for coming on. You've been a great guest.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So we're putting Deanne's website, her phone number, and her email address up on the screen for you. And if you've experienced trauma, you feel like you might be ready to explore getting back in touch with who you really are. I encourage you, reach out to Deanne. Complimentary, phone call, and just visit with her and see if this is a connection that you'd like to make. I think you'll find her to be what she was on the show today, just delightful to talk to, open, transparent. There's nothing hidden there, and I think you'll feel comfortable with her if you're ready. And I encourage you to give it a shot, okay? That's probably not the right word. But anyway, thank you all for being with us. We are committed to, again, spreading encouragement, strength, and hope to our world, kindness, compassion as well. Our world needs more of these things, less of the polarization and tearing other people down. We're trying to build bridges with other people. Those we don't agree with, those we do agree with. We want to build bridges with everyone, and that's why we're here. I will be back tomorrow on wherever you get your audio broadcasts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, you name it. The Determined People podcast is there. I'll be back with another 1-minute inspirational thought tomorrow. Until then, everyone, be well.